Let's see what's going to work. All right, we're live. Woo!
Hey, how are you?
Hey there. Okay, let's get it all set up properly now. Okay, awesome.
All right,
you want to introduce us?
Yeah, I can start introducing us while I get the PowerPoint up. Hi, we're Philip and Betsy Barr, and we just want to thank you for joining us. This is our first seminar for churches doing debt-free life. Debt-free life is a specialized product that maximizes resources to pay off debt, prepare for emergencies, and make your dreams attainable.
All right, so like you said, we're Philip and Betsy, and this is our family on 4th of July this year. We have two little boys, Nate and John Allen, and we're actually church planners here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We planted Knoxville International Church. We've always just had a heart for internationals. We lived overseas for almost 7 years. I actually grew up in South Africa, and anyway, so came back to Knoxville and just saw the need here in Knoxville with lots of internationals. And so that's kind of how God led our family. And he's also opened doors for us to begin working with Symmetry Financial Group. And we focus on the debt-free life product that we're here to talk with you about today. And we just get really excited about it because it's made a big difference in our life, just with our family, but also with our church. And so, we've just seen a need of churches, they often have a lot of things that God has placed on their hearts that they want to do, but a lot of times finances stands in the way. And so we just think this is a way that we can kind of take away that barrier of finances and then just kind of see what God can do in your local community and even globally. So anyways, we're going to get started by just kind of sharing an example and show you what Debt-Free Life was able to do for a specific church.
All right, so to help you think through how debt-free life can help with churches, we have the example here of Trinity Church. So let's talk a little bit about Trinity Church's situation. Trinity Church is a very passionate church, is a very biblical church. It believes in sharing the gospel with the lost, both in their community and around the world. It believes in discipling their church members to be healthy believers that influence their community. And it believes in raising up children to be the next generation of Christian leaders. Trinity Church is about a 500-member church in a mid-sized town in the southeast. The pastor there has been there for about 10 years, and it's seen a growth in attendance, especially among young families. Now, when you're looking at this, your church may or may not look like this. There's a wide range of churches and situations and passions and goals, and so you can see a lot of differences in how churches look. But debt-free life works well with really any situation. We haven't found any situation doesn't work well for. We've worked with people who have very little. We've worked with people who have a lot. We've worked with everything in between. So no matter what your situation is, I'm sure we can help you with it. But as you're watching through this with us, just be thinking about, you're like, okay, that's different than my church. Be thinking, well, what is your church like? And maybe how can these tools we're talking about help with your situation?
So that was Trinity Church, and they've got a lot of goals, a lot of dreams that God has placed on their hearts. But they unfortunately do have some debt. And that is kind of restricting them from really carrying out the full vision and mission that God's placed on their heart. And so they know that in the future, once the debt is paid off, they'll be able to do that kind of more fully. But so we were able to show them how they can do that even faster. Some additional financial concerns, fluctuations in giving. I mean, that happens with a lot of churches, especially now with the COVID-19 pandemic. That's just a reality that a lot of churches are facing. Additionally, low cash flow, and then retirement care for staff. Now, some like Trinity Church, they had something set up for their staff for a retirement plan, but not all churches do, and it could also even mean, if a church has a parsonage, then, how could we care for the pastor when they retire and he needs a home for him and his wife? And so those are just some things that they were kind of thinking about as well when we were talking to them. So as we kind of, just sitting, chatting, getting to know their situation, these are the different types of debts that Trinity Church has. And so you can see there's a lot of different types. We've got, things that are helping them fulfill the mission and vision of the church, missions outreach, church planting, doing global missions as well. But then you've also just got practical things. The HVAC needed updating. The children's department needed renovating for all those new families that were coming in. And the sound system needed to be redone. They were looking at a new building. And so we're kind of looking here at practical and at things that are kind of a little bit more fun, quote unquote, than buildings and renovations and things like that. But so when we looked at all this together with Trinity, we said, hey, what is your total debt? If we add everything up. And they said, well, so our total debt is about 2.1 million. All right. And then the monthly payment that their church is making just towards debt is about 18,000. And so, of course, you can see there's different interest rates and different times for each one of the debt. The children's department, they're going to have that paid off in a year and a half. But the new building, they just got that mortgage. And so they're looking at 30 years now before their debt is paid off. So what we do is, like I said, we're contracted with Symmetry. We're brokers there. And so we use a software for the debt-free life. Philip and I both have a background in math. Mm-hmm. We fell in love in the math building at UT.
Computer science and mathematics.
And so we love math. We love numbers. And so we enjoy kind of talking about that and working with people for the numbers in that respect. But we do have a software that we have access to. And so we run it through the software. And what we show people here is we show them the real debt. And this is kind of where it gets a little uncomfortable. So here we have the real debt. And this is what people don't like to see. I don't like to see it for ours either. So your total debt, if you just add up everything that, the principal amounts of what you owe, for Trinity Church, it was about 2.1 million. But then adding all the interest that they're looking at for the different types and lengths of debts that they have, it's about 1.5 million extra just in interest. And so that means their real debt over 30 years that they would be paying would be $3.6 million. And so that's a lot of money just going towards interest, and so they were saying, how could we use that instead of paying it towards the interest going towards our lenders? How could we'd like to use that for our church for fulfilling what God's placed on our hearts. And so I was like, hey, I feel you. That's money that can be that could be used for the gospel, for global impact, for kingdom impact. And so that's kind of where we started moving the conversation.
Mm-hmm. So, obviously working with churches is not really the money, is not really the issue. The issue is, are we honoring God? And so one of the things that Trinity Church is very aware of is just our biblical responsibility for stewardship. Just a few examples that we see in scripture. You look at the parable of the talents or the parable of the minas, and we see how the master expected a return on the money that he entrusted to the servants. I think another really just great example is Joseph. When he was preparing for the 7 years of famine, I think most people put in a situation that much authority and the only person above them was the Pharaoh himself. I think they would take advantage of the situation to get a lot of wealth for themselves. But Joseph, he didn't do that. Instead, he chose to honor God, and he chose to invest those resources that God had entrusted him with to save not just Egypt, but many of the surrounding countries from the famines that came and were able to buy food from Egypt during that time. And Trinity Church just felt like, is there more we can be doing? Is there more we can be investing? Basically, in other words, is there a way to more effectively maximize current resources? So we're not talking about trying to find more money and then doing something. We're talking about using current resources in order to fulfill the mission of Trinity Church. And so looking again here, we're looking at the total debt and real debt and just saying, all right, we see this difference here. We see how much money is really going off into our debt, and what can we help Trinity Church do with that?
This is the good part.
Yeah,
this is the fun part.
This is the fun part. So this next slide, if you want to go into that one, gives us a picture of what does their current plan look like and what can we do with debt-free life to help them maximize their resources. So their original plan for paying off their debt was to take 30 years. Using Debt-Free Life, we were able to get that down to 8.7 years. Because they got paid off so much sooner, the interest they paid was $603,000 instead of 1.5 million. So it means that that difference was basically money in their pockets, money that they saved that never had to spend in the first place on the interest. And Debt-Free Life does more than just help you pay off your debt. You're not at zero when you pay it off. In fact, if you look at the original 30-year plan, by the end of those 30 years, Trinity Church is going to have $8.2 million accessible. That's their money that's built up through Debt-Free Life that they can use to invest in whatever they want. And the thing is, this is not really about money, like I was saying earlier. This is about ministry. This is about the kingdom of God and honoring God. And how do we enable that to happen? And at times that means we need finances to invest to enable people to do ministry jobs or to pay for things that we need to care for people.
I feel like our church could do a lot with 8.2 million.
Yeah, I think we probably could. We're a young church plant, and we're already trying to save money to help with starting the next church plant. And when I think about what I could do with $8.2 million, I mean, we could reach a lot of people with those kind of resources.
Yeah. One thing though we like to say as well is this is not something that, Philip and I kind of sat in our office and we're like, what could we do to help people? This is not something new. We didn't come up with this on our own. In fact, this is something that much wealthier people than us have been using for centuries, really. So for instance, Walt Disney used this idea of a debt-free life type product to finance the Disney World parks. Doris Christopher used it to start Pampered Chef. Ray Kroc, when he was expanding McDonald's. J.C. Penney used it. Warren Buffett, the Rockefeller family, they've used this type of product to continue with their generational wealth. And so this is not something that's new. And so we're kind of using strategies that other people have found success with. And then we're able to apply that, when we work with families, just kind of with your average American family. And then also specifically as we've been working with churches. And so just kind of like to mention that this isn't something that's some crazy harebrained scheme. This is something that has been used for many years. And in fact, a lot of times when we share this with people, they say, how come more people don't do this? And the reality is it's just your average American family just doesn't know about it. It's just been kind of used more in the realm of those that are a lot wealthier than your average American family. And so that's what's exciting too, is kind of getting to take that and apply it in different scenarios and really just make a big difference in families' lives. And then here making a difference for churches who of course are going to have an impact locally and globally as well. So just to let you know, kind of in the past 3 years with Symmetry Financial, what we've been able to do with Debt-Free Life. So like I said earlier, we love numbers, but here with Debt-Free Life, looking at the numbers, we know that this means people, and it means an impact that it's had on people's lives and on church communities. And so over the past 3 years, we've helped people save $171 million in interest. So that's just money that gets to stay in the bank account instead of being paid out to lenders, and then a 1.4 billion increase in liquidity. And so just so again, those are big numbers, almost too big maybe, but just think about, hey, what could that mean for our church, and what could that mean for our people, and for the impact that we're having for the kingdom of God. And that's kind of how we like to think about it. Being in the ministry, we're not in it for the money, of course, but we're here to really make an impact and to see people's lives change for the sake of Jesus. And so, here this is a way that we can impact more people. And so that's why we get excited about it. And so kind of what's next. We just try and keep this a little bit brief. I'm a talker, so maybe not as brief as we had hoped. But what we want to do is just kind of show you a little bit, hey, this is what Debt-Free Life is. This is what it's done for Trinity Church. And if this is something that you're saying, hey, I'd like to see what it could do for my church, there's no cost, no commitment, and just saying, hey, just let's just talk. And we really just want to kind of talk and see, hey, what is your church's goals? What's your church's vision and mission? And how might we be able to use debt-free life, or show you how you could use debt-free life to kind of help propel that forward even faster. And so you can sign up to talk with us at our Calendly link, calendly.com/debt-free-knox. And we'll be here every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can sign up for a Zoom link on debtfreeknox.com. And we're also be streaming live to Facebook as well. So we look forward to talking with you, to sharing with you, and to just helping your church fulfill what God has placed on your hearts.
Yeah, thank you for sitting through all this with us, and look forward to hopefully connecting with some of you and helping you figure out what you can do with debt-free life.
Have a great week.